Hello. Everything just sort of fell apart just before we came on. Welcome to Sky Notes. I'm Tracy. This is
I'm
my good
Lillian.
friend Lillian. Hi, Lillian. How's it going over there?
It's giggly. It's giggly, and we're expecting snow. We're part of the U.S. Huge, massive storm front. How about
Yes.
you? How are you doing?
Well, we're looking at the rest of the world, North America, going, well, welcome to our winter life.
Exactly.
This is kind of how we do it up here, especially like Toronto and all the snow on the eastern side of
Yes.
things is wild. Like minute,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm sad because you told me Catherine O'Hara died, and I
I
didn't
did at the
know.
time of this recording, you guys, we found out that Catherine O'Hara, who just what a spark of like beauty, class, fun, wildness. We were talking about which Moira costumes we like the best. Just,
Yeah, and she had such a potty mouth, which
yeah,
I love. Like the F bomb was not foreign to her at all.
yeah,
I
exactly.
believe that they were talking about asking her to do Schitt's Creek,
Yeah,
and when they said a comedy like a sitcom, she said,
yeah.
"Fuck no." That was her first answer. Took them a minute to get to the yes, please. Oh
Oh,
my. All right. So we're going to talk about February. That we'll put that aside
yeah.
for now, and we're going to talk about February. It is we're going to do this monthly, but
Yeah.
February is a wild ride astrologically for sure. So we
It's
have
like a
lots of
continuation, right, of the wild
yeah,
ride.
yeah. Well, I mean, and it actually starts with that full moon building to perfection. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of energy, especially when you think the full moon is the moon. This time is the moon in Leo
yeah,
with how many planets? We have Pluto, Mars, the Sun, Venus, and Mercury all over on the other side in Aquarius.
right.
And so it's a lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot. So when you talk about full moons, Lillian, what kind of themes do you talk about? Like if we're just talking about them in general, what are they
yeah.
good for? How do we use them? What do you think?
Well, of course, it's always dependent upon your chart, right? And I've been kind of tracking the moon phases for myself to understand how they impact me. The full moon is usually associated by harvest, and I really have been thinking a lot about our planetary charity video and how, knowing what you're receiving or giving away, having that sense of vulnerability around it rather than entitlement really does kind of set the stage for that gratitude of receiving. So I usually ask folks to look for what they're receiving or to put more energy into what they're receiving symbolically on that day. And
Right.
then if somebody has a full moon, I have a full moon phase birth chart,
Mhm.
you too. Ups and downs. Get used to being anywhere on the spectrum, and that's not a negative thing. It's
Mhm.
just you're dealing with the majesty of the moon, and as you like to say, because it's true, the moon changes quicker than anything else, so it will put the kibosh on delicately laid plans in like with the quickness.
It's true. And I mean, when we're looking at, event charts or event transits,
Yeah.
often the really big events, those things don't really kick off into something significant unless the moon comes in and triggers it. So it's so powerful and in that
Yes.
really intense energy. But what's interesting, I'm actually going to put the full moon chart up
Yeah.
so people can see what we're talking about here
And then
because
I'm putting a bug in your ear. I love that phrase, building to perfection. And I use perfection, but can you explain what that is?
hmm,
I'll tell you my experience with it. It's usually that I'm looking for the phase, and the phase occurs before perfection. And so
mm,
there's sort of this ancillary or before experience. And then there's an after experience. And I find it in particular with the new moon, not a full moon, because the new moon has that difference of it's in the dark for a day or two.
right, right,
And
right,
so we stay in the dark for a day or two before we see this light or receive the information. And
right.
so that happens also with the full moon, that it hasn't perfected. But again, if you could explain it. I would
Well,
love
I
to.
think what you're referring to, sort of that the waxing building up to that pure vision, right? Because you
Yeah,
think it's the moon at its absolute brightest, shining this light so that we can see what's happening on the other side,
yeah,
right? There's this moment of self-reflection. If we think about what the moon and the sun represent in our natal charts, right? It's
yeah,
like this, look at yourself,
yeah,
right? Let's look at ourselves.
yeah,
And the energy leading up to it is a bit frantic, right? Because it's like we're trying to get somewhere.
yeah.
But there's this moment of suspension where we get this clear vision. And then all of a sudden, we start to be able to relax a little bit and decide how to use everything that we built up until that moment, right?
And that moment is when it's exact, when
Perfect.
the moon and the sun is perfecting. Yeah, that's awesome.
Excellent. Well, and so what's really interesting about this particular chart, I don't remember if you guys can see my cursor or not, but anyways,
Oh, not
everything is
this
over
time.
in Aquarius over on the other side of the chart.
Yeah,
Okay, and then you see the moon is easy to pick out, and it's sitting on right on, like, just as it's rising, it's
yeah,
becoming full, which is quite neat. But we've got all this Aquarius air, which is generally wants to be in its head, tends to prefer logic, but is quite fixed in its ideas. Yeah.
yeah,
And you've got the sun on the other side going again. And the other thing I wanted to say is that the full moon is the most objective, right?
huh,
When it starts getting dark, because it can't see, it needs to count on intuition more. When it can
yeah,
see, it can be more logical,
objective,
or
yeah,
right, and so we've got this. To me, this chart says we need to take a really good look at our ideals and be objective about them, because we're
yeah,
about to go into a phase that's not objective at all.
right.
Right? So get really clear on your ideas. And you're going to have to, through the month of February, figure out what you're willing to let go of, because we'll talk more about this. But the aspects that are
Mhm.
happening is we're getting our earth shook beneath our feet.
Yeah,
And so this is the spotlight. This is the moment right at the beginning of the month. This is happening on that 3:08 p.m. Mountain, 5:08 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. So it's like
yeah,
this building up to this objective moment is
that's
what's
right.
bringing in the whole month. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the opportunity, right? Because the other things that could happen are, you know, Aquarius is sometimes called a social dinosaur. So reverting back to things that they want to work and bringing them into the present, maybe in ways that aren't working, that could be happening. The moon in Leo is not necessarily objective. Once validation, so there's a lot that could be accomplished without this kind of expansion and opening of the mind to more of a collective need. But that collective need is described by the Aquarius. It is described. You know, if it were just Leo, we could say, yes, everybody gets to do what they want. Cartman won. I'm signing off. But that's not what it's saying. It's saying the collective is trying to make a decision here. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's almost like this is giving you this clear view with the Leo moon. Who are
yes,
you in the
there you go.
collective? What's your role? How are you contributing to what's going on? And you get
Yeah,
to actually see it from
yeah.
the other side. So where do you fit in that, and how do you want
Whew,
to move forward? Yeah.
powerful stuff. Yeah,
It really is. Like, I looked at this chart and thought, "Ooh, okay, we've got some stuff to learn." And we knew that from the astrology of the month anyways, but to see how
absolutely.
it's getting kicked off is kind of wild to see
Yeah,
for sure. Okay. So
and
now
that
the other thing I wanted to say about this full moon is I looked at the Sabian symbol for that moon.
yeah,
So in the 14th degree of Leo, so when you look up Sabian symbols, it's like, so this is at 13, um, 03, I think, 13 degrees 03 of Aquarius. You go to the 14th degree when you look up the
round up.
Sabian
Yeah,
symbols. Yes.
yeah.
So the 14th degree of Leo is a human soul seeking opportunities for outward manifestation. Core meaning: the yearning of self actualization and the urge to bring inner potential into concrete external reality. Isn't that wild, just based on everything that we just said, eh?
Ensoulment.
Yeah. So, themes: creative expression, purposeful action, and the desire to leave a mark on the world.
Wow, wow.
Astrological interpretation is it signifies a moment where the internal spiritual soul, is actively looking for ways to express itself through its personality.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to include it because I'm like, oh, this is a
I
little
love it. I love it. To me, it says, like I'm getting an idea of how, um, if I were to recommend using this full moon, it would be to meditate or, I always love mirror work, especially when it's quite positive. So the full moon on a Sunday is a lovely kind of 1-2 thing that I think would be really sweet, where you have a mirror, but you're sort of putting stuff up, either affirmations, or they've got like flower stickers, or you can decorate a mirror so that you're understanding where you're going. I'm saying this like everyone would want to do this. If I were a guy and you don't like that, go to a gym, right? Go somewhere where you feel the most you. It doesn't have to be a gym, obviously, it could be a library. Find a mirror and then pull and push that energy for a bit, because there's something about the you-ness of it that Leo is telling you about, that you want to get out. And I think that can show up for you in those kind of things. Or
oh,
you can meditate and see if something shows up as a message from that Leo.
I love that. You said whatever people do. I have a really bad reverb. What's going on there? Anyways, I like to charge my stones if it's time
Yes.
in the new moon or the full moon. And because we have two eclipses coming after this full moon, I'm likely going to use this one to. It's been a while since I've
That's smart.
charged them up,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna do a good clearing of everything this weekend,
Really
and
smart.
then put them out for the full moon, just to get them juiced up because it'll be, like I said, a while. But yeah, meditation. I think because there's such a emphasis on self-reflection.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an excellent way to just sort of sit in it. And it's happening at a time when we can, it's the middle of
Yeah.
the late afternoon. So yeah, I really like it.
Even
Is
in
there
the
any
car, right? Like a little rear view mirror action, something where you're inviting it in. I would
Yeah,
like to know
I like it.
how I'm going to fit in. And that does kind of roll into the next one, which I've been dying to talk about.
Yes, yes.
If you saw and you're familiar with Uranus, it's still retrograde, but in a couple of days, and I don't recall the exact, oh, you did it for me. Thank you. 7:32 p.m. on Tuesday, February 7th. So it's coming.
Third,
And
third.
third, sorry. Why did I say so? It doesn't matter. I'm getting so excited because I'm thinking about Carolyn Casey's work these days as a visionary astrologer. And I find it rampant with kindness and wholesomeness that is rare, on the web, because we are fancy and tough people. And so kindness is there, if you're lucky. And it is based on her work, I find, based on the origins of the words, which is a concrete enough reality so that you get out of the woo tendency of going, love, and you say, love for me is commitment, doing right by you, being accountable, being available, really concrete words. And she's using them to help us shift the story of what's happening so that the maximum number of people can join in. And she's at Coyote Council. I'll figure out a way to put it in. I'll send you the notes. And she has a regular Monday gathering until April. And it's to get you through the eclipse, but in a very clear, visionary astrologer way. And part of that was this discussion over the solstice, the solstice, about the return of Arthur and the return of the kings. And this is not the first time I've heard this, shockingly enough, the return of the kings. And the ecstatic part for me is that it's coming from indigenous folks, and that by and large, the king was the representative. And if you want to go way back, we talked about this when we talked about the sun and astrology in that video. It's the king who is sacrificed. It's the king who is the person who doesn't decide, but who listens to the council people. It's the marker, the person who is the neutral place where we can receive information to live as a collective. And so I'm just making a note that this king thing showing up is exciting and weird and contrary. I think, we don't want a bad king, but I think we don't want our idea of king to be the one that wins. There's a much different organization that we can embrace. So, saying all that, Carolyn Casey talks about King Arthur, and that the Sabian symbols have suggested that King Arthur, who wandered off with Merlin, is ready to come back. And in her lingo, and I'm going to paraphrase, so I hope I don't do any damage, we get to ask for help from those who have left us. Mary ascended, Jesus ascended. We get to go to the people who have said, come back when it gets really hard, and say, we're having a hard time thinking our way through. And so the other part of it is she recommends not believing, but instead entertaining the idea, which I love, entertaining the idea. And so she says that her recommendation is to say to Uranus, in these days, I am available to be danced into alignment with the universe. And that will help bring that, all of the differing energies into a way where we can express ourselves.
I love that. I love that. And so with it now, Uranus is in the last bit of Taurus. It's going to finally get out of there in April. And so we're finishing on Tuesday the last look back, right? Look back into what the lessons were, what we were supposed to be doing, and what things needed to change, because Uranus wants us to, if we're not being what we're supposed to be, if we're feeling held down by anything, Uranus wants us not to do that. It wants us to be free.
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating. I mean, I'm always so in awe of how the things line up, so talking about how this month we have all these shifts from Aquarius into Pisces, and how they're all going to talk to Uranus before they move into Pisces.
That's right.
It's like, and to your point about the king, it's like they almost all kind of give a little nod before they move into this new way of being, And so, it's so wild, because anything that anybody is stuck with right now, things are going to move fast. Things are going to move fast in the next few months.
And there's kind of this heartbeat of strength, which, we've talked about as positive and negative. Positive if you know how to use it and mitigate it and direct it, fire's fantastic if contained, right? It's a disaster if we don't know how to manage it. And so how do we become people who can manage these things, right? That's the open question. And so this violent shaking of Taurus, totally offending Taurus, Uranus, but then like ready to go to Gemini, super smart. Like, first of all, how do we in our physical bodies digest that movement, figure out what to do with that now that I know what movement is? I mean, for me personally, sometimes it's been like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. Like I did 4 months of decluttering, you all. And there were many times when I would go, ooh, I should not have kept anything from here. And you have to be compassionate, right? But like, it's that on-off switch, Gemini, so fast. And then the other piece that I keep thinking about is that, even though Neptune moved into Aries, the Saturn and Neptune clench in Pisces. Just, you literally could have been like dipping yourself in the worst of your memories for that entire time. And the goal is to digest and learn and relieve yourself of that and not be taking it into the future. But the tendency is to go, oh no, it's happening again. Oh no, this is the first, oh, I'm doomed. When you can just clean it off, and then have new experiences.
I want to go back to something you said right at the beginning of when you were talking about strength.
Mm.
Because I feel like the transitions that we've been witnessing and watching over the past months, I'm going to actually say the past probably few years, I think we're learning new ways to be strong. I think strength is actually being redefined.
Yes.
Just like I think stability is being redefined. And I think that's what Uranus did through
Ooh,
Taurus.
I
And
love
I
that.
think that, yeah, and I kind of feel like that's one of the themes of what will be challenged over the next weeks and
Okay.
months,
Yeah.
right? Is that, what did you think was stable? And was it actually really stable or was it just stationary,
Yeah.
which are not the same thing,
Right.
right?
Or is it moving so much slower than you that you thought it wasn't moving?
Mhm. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility
Right.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. The
I had a
tortoise.
fun conversation. This is apropos of nothing, but I'm just going to say it. My piano teacher and I met through our physical therapist. So we always talk about the body. I have a whole sheet of instructions of what I'm meant to do with my body when I sit down for practice. And we go over those. So we were talking about how we sit on the piano bench. And, I said to her, yeah, I sit on my sit bones, which are the nubbins at the bottom of your hip, like sort of structure. And you can feel them, and it's kind of it's 1, 2. So it's wobbly. And then I was telling her about how other physical therapists, she kept saying the coccyx or the sacrum that kind of hangs down, think of it hanging gracefully kind of thing. And then I was saying, there's another one off the sternum that kind of dangles down. And when I feel that one, I feel like an egg. And she went back to the sit bones and said, I didn't know about the sit bones. And so that was last week. And this week she was like, oh, yeah. So I've really been feeling like, in music, we join the flow. So I'm feeling what my sit bones are contributing to that. And I just thought it was delightful. And it reminded me of the balance question. We may learn parts of our structure that are designed to create support, but not obstacles, not limitation. They help us define how we perceive reality. So those kind of things are the things that are at risk. What you believed, what you thought was, like you were saying, your expectations are about to get,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Yeah. I think our expectations are going to be challenged for a while, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think our expectations are going to be challenged for a while.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so we have Uranus moving forward. Change is now going to come quickly. We've been given the opportunity to reflect. Whether we chose to take that opportunity or not that's a
Right.
personal choice, right?
Right.
And so right away, so Uranus goes direct on Tuesday, Wednesday. We have Mercury square Uranus because here's the thing: everything that's going to shift from Aquarius into Pisces is going to have a conflict or some kind of run in with Uranus before it shifts. So
Wow.
these are some of the themes. So this month features 4 planets leaving Aquarius, moving into Pisces. But before they change signs, they'll square Uranus, which is in the last bit of Taurus. And it's like the planets are shaking the stuck stuff loose, the
Yeah.
stuff that needs to get shaken loose, right? Before we move into the most mutable of signs is Pisces, right?
Yeah.
And so, we can expect some sudden disruptions of things, and especially of the things that we thought were stable, right? That to me is a very Uranus and Taurus kind of thing. Um, Nervous systems are going to be kicked up. So everything that you can do to ground and everything that you can do to feel like you're in your body and that you are a solid being, as solid as we can be,
Right.
will be really helpful. Breakthroughs when it comes to conflict and friction, right? Because that's such
Yes.
a Uranus word, that the
Yes.
breakthrough is being able to get through to the other side, right?
Yeah.
Now, how we do that, who knows? But there's something there, and then of course issues around freedom and autonomy. And we've been having this conversation about freedom and autonomy for so long because we have a side of the political spectrum whose ideas of freedom are they get their way and nobody else gets
Oh,
theirs,
yeah.
which is wild, but it's true,
Yeah.
and we've seen where that's led us and where we are.
Yeah.
And so all of those things, are going to be challenged as these planets move. So I will, moving forward, give you the dates of when those switches happen. But overall, the themes of those squares are, in Mercury, it's going to be in information and in our, our thoughts and in our thinking and in our ideas. And then, of course, wherever this is going to happen in your chart. So Mercury in Aquarius, so wherever you have Aquarius, and then Uranus and Taurus, those are the two areas of your life that'll be feel the shake,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then right away on the 6th, Mercury heads into Pisces at 3:47
There we
p.m. Mountain,
go.
5:47 Eastern. And then right next weekend, 7th and 8th, Venus is square Uranus. So I mean, it's all week. It's just like change, shift, aspect. So like expect this feeling of either you can't catch up or you just like I said, get in your body and feel grounded, eat root vegetables, drink beer. If you eat meat, red meat, these
Yep.
are all things that get you into your body quickly. Apparently beer is the fastest way to ground
That's
yourself.
great. That's
I
great.
Yeah, who knew?
Yeah.
And I don't love beer, so I wouldn't go there first. But I know when I'm not grounded because I literally crave beef stew, which
Yeah.
is like the most grounding, or soup, two of the most grounding things you can put in your body.
Yeah.
So, you know, when in doubt, enjoy some of those things because it's going to feel pretty shaky.
Mhm.
Um, anything that you want to say about those aspects?
I was going through my food stuff and I was like, "Oh, how about nuts?" And then I was like, "I don't know. They take a long time to digest. How about like desiccated fruit? I don't know. That's so sweet. That's yin, you know? How about some
Just
beef
think of
jerky?"
anything that grows underground.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, or a
Yeah.
root, anything that you're eating the root of. So ginger,
Yes,
right, is
ginger.
is a great
Yeah.
thing to add to
Yeah.
stuff, anything like that. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
no, I don't have anything to add. It's just that vibe of the sort of the lapping. I've been talking about estuaries a lot. So that's where the water comes in and mixes with the salt water and the fresh water. And they're at the, mm, the spot where the shoreline meets the shore. And I think about this with water and time, which is why I will continue to ask Catherine O'Hara to sit with us if she can, even though we know she's busy. And also probably Robin Williams for reasons we won't discuss. But the sense is that time is all happening at once. When water gets hit with other kinds of water, there's a massive reorganization unless there's a really specific weight keeping them apart, where one will go under and one will stay on top, or
Right.
a really specific temperature. So the estuary notion is very February because, like you said, we're going to get, Uranus bringing in Mercury and Uranus bringing in Venus and Uranus bringing in Saturn, etc. And so there's a moment where we lose track of time. There's a sense of overwhelm because there are not distinctions. And then there's a waiting for the opposite to happen, the clearing up of the energies as the water subsides and the space restores itself.
Right. Well, and when everything went into Aquarius, it had to talk to Pluto first,
That's right. Oh,
right?
and I
And
felt
so
it.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there's this really interesting thing happening with the personal planets having to have these conversations with the outers, and the outers being at the beginning
Yeah.
of their journey, because they're all early and signs are going to be soon. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's pretty wild. Um, so then as soon as Venus is done with its square with Uranus on the 10th, it goes into Pisces.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about that, so Venus is exalted in Pisces, so it loves to be there. It feels very special, Venus in Pisces.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a morning star. So if you look at if it rises ahead of the sun or behind the sun, that does make a really big difference. So the nice thing about it, it's a morning star this time around, and so it's much more grounded, more realistic.
Is that the one called Lucifer?
Oh, I don't
When
know.
it's
I'm
the
not.
morning
I
star?
think so. I think
I think
so.
so, because she's a little more of a warrior.
Yeah, she's the warrior Venus. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. As when she's behind the sun, she's much more idealistic.
right,
She's much more in the stars and the sky. And
right,
just given where we are right now,
right.
I don't think we need any more of that as Neptune has left Pisces, you know?
It does sort of speak to the breakthroughs you have, be grateful for them, because there's no point in grabbing someone to change their mind.
Oh, I like that. Well, and also when with Venus, if Venus was an evening star, there's far less likelihood that you could take the ideal that you're looking for and do anything with it
Right,
because it has nothing to ground it,
exactly.
right? So whereas now, because she's a morning star, there's much more potential of bringing into life the ideal, the idea, the beauty
Like
that
from
you're
the full
looking for.
moon, right? The
Yeah.
expression of the soul.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I love the timing of this. I think
Yeah.
it's really important. So that happens. Venus goes into Pisces on the 10th, Tuesday the 10th. And so anybody who remediates or wants to work with
Yes.
Venus while she is in Pisces is a good time to work with her. So then finally, Friday the 13th, um, Saturn moves into Aries for its stay. And I didn't realize this. So it's actually Saturn will be in Aries until April 13th, 2028. And it doesn't do what it's done this time where it's retrograded in and out. It actually
Mhm.
just moves into Taurus and
Isn't that
stays
something?
right away. So when it leaves Aries, it's leaving Aries big
Yeah,
time, like no dilly dallying.
yeah.
And so it goes into Saturn moves into Aries at 5:11 p.m. Mountain, so 7:11 where you are.
Mhm.
Um, and the first thing it does is it conjuncts Neptune, and it because they'll be partile, but they don't actually perfect until later on. But that conjunction lasts Friday the 13th to March 3rd.
Yeah.
They're in relationship. They're
I mean,
conjuncting.
it's kinda cleanup crew, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a
So
brand
that
new team.
means but they're in any major chart we have this month, any of the
Yeah,
lunation charts and the eclipse charts, they're in that aspect. So it's carrying a longer signature than actually just at that time, until March 3rd.
yeah,
And the thing that's interesting is that they've been doing this dance, Neptune and Aries, for such a long time. And I feel like we have to have, after all the Pisces conjunctions, we have to have this meetup in Aries so that we can shift that energy
yeah.
into the Aries paradigm, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, there's always something about how I mean, it's such a, what Rick Levine says, impossible, mm, mm, the object is stuck and the immovable force and immovable object. An
Okay.
unstoppable force, immovable.
Okay.
I'm going to move on. It feels as though we're being asked to define ourselves in ways that we have to defend.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, well,
And
there's
then,
bravery is a big theme, right, with
yeah,
Aries. Yeah.
it's not like we get to define ourselves and we're like, that's nice. It's like, this is who I am, and I'm planting my feet here.
Yeah, well, and the thing that's really nice about the combination this just came to me, sorry,
Mhm,
but,
mhm.
when Neptune tends to go to the most ideal place of whatever the
Yes.
themes are, right? So the nice thing about having Saturn join Neptune for a minute and say, "Okay, but let's get real
Yeah.
about the actions that we take,"
Yeah.
right? Now, the danger with the Saturn and Aries is always being afraid to be brave,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So the Neptune there will actually soften, like they're doing each other a favor. Neptune is softening the Aries fear, right? Saturn is materializing the
Yeah.
idealism
Oh,
of
yeah.
the
Oh,
of
yeah.
the Neptune. But these it'll be really interesting to see how it manifests because,
Yeah.
this is all about taking charge and being brave and, what is actually freedom and being an individual
Yeah.
in a collective,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see some really interesting shifts
Yeah.
after this conjunction. And of course we'll get to talk about it once we're on the
Yeah.
other side, but it's interesting and probably really good for us that Saturn and Neptune are gonna do this in Aries right at the beginning of the sign
I
for us.
dig it. I do feel
Yeah.
like it's an opportunity to kind of, like I was talking about that cognitive shift into, "Oh, now I can do that." I feel like that Saturn with that Neptune, they've been traveling for a little bit, so this could be, "Oh, now I can do the things that came up during that time."
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, and so that like I said, that's April 13th, and then right away on the 15th, the sun is square Uranus.
Ah, yeah.
So,
Is that
this
really
idea
you?
of who are we? Yes, and are
Yeah.
you being true to yourself,
Mhm.
to yourself as an individual, not with all the other things in your life, but who you were put here to be as the you that
Exactly.
you are, right? I
Yeah.
love that idea, of the you that you are in relation to Uranus. When you think about Uranus ruling astrology, like the
Yeah,
idea that Uranus rules astrology, I really like that.
exactly.
Um, and then and I have the eclipse chart, but you know what? Because we're going to talk about the eclipse right beforehand, let's just
Maybe
give,
we hold off, just touch on
yeah,
it a bit.
yeah. So right in the middle of the month, February 17th, in 5 a.m. Mountain, 7 a.m. And it's actually on the nose. There's no
Right.
minutes. It's just 5 a.m. and 7 a.m.
Mhm.
Um, it's going to be at 28 Aquarius, 49 minutes. So right at the very end of Aquarius.
Wow.
And there's some interesting aspects that we'll talk about more when it comes, but
Yeah.
there's some really neat energy around that eclipse that
Mhm.
will be helpful, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, we'll talk more about that. But so right in the middle of the month, we have this moment of clarity
Yeah.
or an opportunity for getting rid of whatever we saw at this full moon, maybe.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah. Yeah. But
nice.
there's a massive release in that particular,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. In that eclipse. And we have a couple of really sweet aspects this month too. So
Mhm.
first, the sun moves into Pisces on the 18th. So we have the eclipse, and then right away the sun changes signs into Pisces.
Mhm.
And then Venus will trine Jupiter on February 22nd. That's
Ooh.
really beautiful. We have the two
Yeah.
benefics that are both going to be Venus is they're both exalted.
Exalted, yeah.
Jupiter is retrograde, but still that's a pretty lovely aspect.
That's
So if you have things that you want really good outcomes for, that's
yeah.
probably the best day of the month,
Yeah.
February 22nd. I mean, it's eclipse season, so traditional astrologers, calm down, I'm sorry. But if you have to pick a day this month to do
Right.
something and you need the
There's a
benefics on
good
your
day.
side,
That's
that's the
right.
day.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So that's February 22nd. And then we have Mercury goes retrograde
Mhm.
on the 25th,
That's right.
the 26th Eastern, because it's happening like right 11 p.m. here and then 1 in the morning for you. So right
Mhm.
around there. And it's going retrograde in Pisces.
I'm telling
So
you, this Pisces, and we'll see when
guys,
we switch over to the tarot readings.
so I'm going to tell you that the worst Mercury retrograde. Now, when I say worse, I mean technical difficulties, bad miscommunications, losing stuff that I'd worked hours for. That was a Mercury in Pisces retrograde. So it
Wow.
doesn't like to be in Pisces. So
Right.
there'll be a lot of going within. And again, this going within about what are your ideals? Like, what
Yeah.
are your beliefs? What's important to you? I think the timing of this based on what's going on in the world is
Yeah.
timely and important. But just back everything up, double check, don't send emails right away. Give yourself
Right.
24 hours to think about
Right.
it.
Like, if you're doing something, stop when you feel satisfied, not don't keep pushing because 'cause you're in a
Yeah.
good groove, let that go,
Yeah.
for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the 26th, the very next day, we have Mars square Uranus starts.
Wow.
and that lasts from February 26th to March 1st. And so
Wow.
that's a very potentially active
Yeah.
in terms of outbursts,
Yeah.
anger, accidents, things like that. I want to say violence, but I want to freak people out. I mean, Pluto can be a bit more intense in that way, but with Uranus, it's things that take you by surprise, things that you don't expect.
I remember when I was a bicycle courier, these were the moments where I didn't wanna try tricks or whatever. I could still be
Yeah,
physical, and
yeah,
in fact, it's trying to express something. So it's
yeah.
not saying stay still. That is
Yes.
not what this is saying.
No, 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 and as a matter of fact, likely, like, on a personal individual level, the combination of those 2 planets, you'll, like, suddenly take action, right? Like, your
Exactly,
inspiration or your drive to do something about something will take you by surprise, like, it's that
exactly.
kind of energy.
Yeah.
But I remember having somebody whose Mars in their natal chart was being asked
Oh,
square Uranus, and
yeah.
I said kind of joking, like I was explaining, like that's not the day to take big risks,
Right,
right? Like be and the joke was like, don't jump out of a plane.
right.
And she literally goes, "Oh, thank God, I've actually been planning a skydiving trip." I'm like, "Well, don't do it then."
That's yeah, I mean, it's always hard to describe, like, there will be a temptation to do something risky.
Mhm, mhm.
It will be laid out for you, and then you have to choose where you're at, and we're
Yeah,
saying choose on the conservative risk side.
yeah,
We're not
yeah,
saying don't do anything, we're not saying go hide.
yeah. Yep, absolutely. But look both ways before you cross the street. Don't turn left if you can't see the oncoming traffic, like those, those types of things. Just
Pay
be
attention to
aware.
signals, right?
Be
Like, if you're
in the
late,
moment.
yeah, let yourself feel through being late, and if that means don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, all those
Yes,
weird things that can start to pile up in
yes.
experiences. Yeah.
And the worst, like, in terms of working with people and doing, any kind of predictive stuff with transits, Uranus, the whole point of Uranus is it's the thing you didn't think of. So
Right.
trying to tell people or help
Yeah,
people navigate what it's gonna look like. We're not supposed to know. We're not It's supposed to take us by surprise. We're not meant to know.
yeah.
So, anyway, so that starts on February 26th. And then Friday, February 27th is just a
Wow.
pileup of,
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde is conjunct Venus. So they're having a lovely pair up.
Wow.
And that can be a beautiful day, especially if you're a creative writer or
I
anybody
know.
who's creative, because the ability to sort of get that out with the Mercury retrograde
I'm
and
so mean. I'm like, "You can get your old love letters out and burn all the ones that suck."
ooh, I like that. That's a great use of the
Right?
eclipse energy.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's time to say goodbye to an old love, and yeah, tear that poop down for
Yeah.
sure. I love
Yeah.
it. Love it. And so we have that, and then Mars, that's the day that the Mars Uranus
Right.
square perfects. So this is interesting. So we've got Mercury with Venus, and
Mhm.
then we also have Saturn is with Neptune,
Mhm.
and the sun will be sitting on the North Node. So it's
Wow.
like everybody's teamed up
Yeah.
with another
Yeah.
spot or planet, to be able to, in some way, I think it's some kind of built-in protection to that Mars Uranus square.
Oh,
Each The
interesting.
sun is more powerful with it,
Yeah.
bigger with that North Node there.
Yeah.
Mercury has a way to express its
Mhm.
inner energy because Venus is not retrograde, so it can help it out.
And
Um,
Venus
and
can say what it wants and get it from that Mercury because it's
yeah,
uh oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
that's okay.
I wanna say this other thing, and it's just bursting through like a naughty pancake. The thing I wanted to say is I'm blown away by how Pisces and Virgo do business, you know what I mean? Virgo says, "Here's all the information," and then there are processes to apply to it so that you can mitigate any overwhelm. Sometimes it can cause paralysis, but it's effective and strategic. And then Pisces shows you everything and sticks your face in the toilet. And so there are two places where you're really getting to see the widest variety of things, Gemini notwithstanding, whatever. I mean, you're getting to see what's there. And one of them has no shape and form. And one of them offers you things that you can use to be part of this experience. So, yeah, it's something that we're in the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and the last piece of that is that because we still have Saturn and Neptune together,
Yeah.
we wanted to talk about sacrifice because
Yes,
with all that energy in Pisces and then also the Neptune Saturn, there is a huge energy around what are you willing to sacrifice.
right.
And so that is just something to let that ruminate in your head because we're going to be asked that more than
So,
once.
and just to kind of expand that, it can fall into that rigid, idealistic place where you want to offer other people as sacrifice, or you want to offer something that's not yours as a sacrifice. And that's never the request. It is always inside of you. What is the thing that is ready to go that you keep tugging on when it tries to leave? And can you let it go so that you can heal and become more of who you actually are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the interesting thing is that the tendency and what we're seeing is people thinking that other people sacrificing is okay and that's the way to go.
Yeah.
But with Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, it's about you. It
Yeah.
is not about other people.
That's
And
right.
you can try as hard as you want to make it not about you or to ignore that it, whether it's happening to you or not. But the astrology is not going to let that happen forever.
No.
There's going to be a moment, and I'm likely this month with the
Yeah.
kind of astrology we're experiencing, um, where you might kind of get shaken from that pedestal.
Yeah. The
I couldn't
rigid
think.
beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's worth noting
platform is actually a better word. Platform.
the Taliban has just reinstituted slavery in Afghanistan. And just a note, I'm from Washington, D.C., so all this stuff in D.C. is just pissing me off nonstop. There's a place where people go, I can't remember the name of it, Camp David, that's what it is. And it's right up the road, maybe an hour from where I live. And it's totally, it's probably all decorated with 70s stuff. And I remember how pissed off Trump was the first time. And there was a big hubbub about how he really wanted to bring the Taliban in to start negotiating with him. And I think it's just another sign that this doesn't get the idea that we're all sentient, autonomous beings and shall remain so, regardless of the efforts to diminish that. So that is a very real threat. That has always been the case in Liberia, in the UAE, in the Middle East. Slavery has continued. So this literally is a fight for us to be free, that the astrology is setting up.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with the transits for this month, or do we want to move on to oracle cards?
Let's do the
Well, we're
cards.
doing tarot today, which is
This
exciting.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. We decided that we split the zodiac in half, and I'm doing fire and air, and Lillian is doing earth and water. And so the weird thing is that we actually did pull the same card for two different signs, each of us. So that it's interesting. Now, I just want to comment that we pulled so many swords and coins.
Yeah.
And when we think about what the astrology is doing, like all of this Aquarius in our heads, this up here sort of energy, and now we're going to move into out here sort of energy. But swords are the mind.
Yeah.
Yes. And coins are embodied and the earth.
That's right.
Yeah? So there's a lot of message around that of, as we move into Pisces, make sure you're still using this and you're still grounded. So I'll show you the deck that I'm using.
Oh, yeah.
So this is called the Starman Tarot.
Beautiful.
And it is created by David De Angelis. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it was fun to say. And it's based on the artwork of David Bowie.
Beautiful.
And he sticks with the standard tarot. So first off, we're going to do Aries.
Yeah.
And Aries, I drew the Four of Swords, which is lovely.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
And so some of the themes, the Four of Swords is very much about rest and healing. And so rest, integration, and a nervous system reset. If you're feeling like the electricity of Aquarius is overriding your system, Aries, just separate yourself, go and get, take a nap or whatever it is that you do to rest and rejuvenate, because Aries aren't necessarily nappers.
Mm.
This card says take a pause, listen to your body. If it's asking you for rest, quiet, or space to think, do that. Don't push for answers for yourself or others because they'll come in moments of quiet and solitude, not while you're busy and distracting yourself. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All
That's really
right.
cool. Yeah. So I'm still using the handle deck, but I have a ton of other decks that I'm curious about. And the first card I got is Harmony, which is the Two of Stones in this deck. And, you know, when I think about the Uranian switch into Gemini out of Taurus, the fixed sign, I think what have we learned, right? And I sort of think of these as the sit bones that I was referring to, right? That give you a sense of grounding when you sit, if you can find those 2 points. And I thought that was quite lovely. And so the other note I have, Handel calls it harmony. And the other note with that is harmony is created by the experience of disharmony and the experiences of harmony, because you need to understand, kind of like you need to have a good ear for what constitutes harmony. And then you need to have it for yourself. So it does sort of tick all the boxes of what we've been talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a balance message in the twos,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Finding some kind of balance. So
Yeah.
that's interesting as the Uranus is getting out of Taurus, like plant your feet and feel the ground underneath your feet. Yeah, I
What's
love
different now? What do you notice? What changed?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Well, next is Gemini, and I actually laughed out loud when I drew it because I drew the Lovers.
Ah,
Very neat card. Now, the reason this is funny is because the Lovers is about making a choice.
yeah.
Geminis don't always love that because they have to put in an awful lot of thought, and when they have to make a decision because they need a lot of information to make a
Yes.
decision. So when I drew it, it's like, okay, guys, you don't get to waffle. You need to make the choice. It's time to make the choice. Any decision you've been trying to put off, Gemini, you're not going to get to put it off anymore.
Yeah.
There may be a chance to make meaningful connections with others. That's another Lovers theme. But either way, trust what feels right intuitively, not what looks good on paper. So if you're,
Nice.
as a Gemini, if your habit is to make pros and cons lists, that's not going to work as it has in the
Interesting.
past this time around, because you'll be tempted to use your brain to decide what you need to do, but it's actually your gut that's actually going to be more dependable this month for sure. And especially right now as we have all this wild astrology going on. So get in tune with where you get your gut messages and listen to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And then the next is Cancer. And this is where I got my Four of Swords. And I just want you to see the imagery a little bit. So this is framed as perfection. And so the idea is to acknowledge that perfection comes in moments and doesn't kind of build into this arc of time. We desperately want to live in perfection, but that the stability of the 4 points can offer that. And then there's the same admonition to rest and to come into alignment with yourself. To focus.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, then I got for Leo, the Prince of Swords.
Oof.
Yeah, Prince
Beautiful.
of Swords. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So it says you're likely to be mentally overstimulated this month. Shocking with all the planets in Aquarius on the other side. And this might lead you down a few different paths. You might want to speak up about something that's been dominating, right? Getting it out of your head and getting it out, or share an idea that you've had. You might want to chase after something that's really grabbed your attention. Your curiosity will be really high, but with the overstimulation, it can become like really reactive. So, if you're feeling that reactive sort of feeling, so before you make a choice or an option, make sure that you consider which one will let you move forward with a clear intention. So intention is the key here,
Okay.
right? Is knowing what the intention is, and being more centered before you move forward with the thing that you're obsessed with in
Beautiful.
February.
That's beautiful. And then I got for Virgo the Three of Stones, and this is work. And I think in the Rider deck, I'm thinking it's kind of like the guild or something. But I love that notion of three. And I was showing Tracy the Pema Chodron compassion chart cards rather. And her admonition was never forget the three. And I know that it's something Buddhist, right? But I thought it was amazing that it was for this. And I thought it was a sign that the work is available for Virgos this month, and that objectivity could be super helpful this month, and that there are people around that you can connect with. So go ahead and reach out and connect with those folks, keeping in mind all the other stuff that we shared about different obstacles or issues that could surface.
Yeah. Well, and with that, the energy of the month is very, it feels jerky,
Yeah,
so
interrupted, red light,
yeah,
green light.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So just kind of keep that in mind. Well, for Libra,
Mm-hmm.
I got the moon.
Oh,
So it's so funny. An air sign got the most intuitive card,
that's
or one of the most
amazing.
intuitive cards, right? Um,
Yeah.
so the moon says that you can feel more sensitive or uncertain, emotionally foggy maybe this month. Um, but that's okay because your intuition is heightened,
Yeah.
right? So if you don't count on being in your head, and don't your emotions aren't going to be necessarily helpful because we're all going to be a bit reactive. So keep that in mind, especially in situations where you normally try to keep things smooth and balanced.
Ah, interesting.
Mm.
Yeah.
Not everything is clear right now, right?
Right.
As we said, we don't get to know the
Right.
things that are coming, and that's okay. It's less about making firm decisions and more about paying attention to your instincts.
Yeah.
So again, we're getting these messages of, to these air signs, don't necessarily get stuck in your head. Use
Yeah.
your intuition. Um, and more about paying attention to instincts and also subtle signals, right? And so kind of having those moments of observation and silence before you jump into anything. It'll allow things to unfold before you try to define them. So let things develop, right?
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of ripen on the vine.
Mhm.
Okay. So for Scorpio, I have the Four of Pentacles. So it's interesting. We had two different fours. And that handle describes as the power of earth, the Four of Stones. And that is, again, the energy of building. And I usually go to numerology. When you've got three things, you have infinity. When you have four, you have that possibility of perfection. And so to me, it says there'll be resources to ground yourself. There'll be depth to the month. You can take action on improving your resources, I would say.
I like that. That's nice.
Yeah.
Sagittarius, I chose the King of Pentacles.
Oh, good. Yay, me. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
So, stability, resources, building something that will last.
Mm,
This card says, take a practical, steady approach. It's not time to chase the next big idea.
woohoo.
Consistency, patience, and tending to what you already have
I
is
love
where the
that.
payoff is. So think long-term security, making choices for your future self. What would my future self want me to do? Those things will be appreciated, but also that's where the payoff is.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Feels very consistent.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. And then here we have for Capricorn, Odin, the father of cups in the north. So the message of sacrifice obviously is included in this, and he's hanging on the world tree. So it is a time to live into your strength. These are usually could be in tarot. It's quite common for the court cards to be another person, and so there could be somebody who comes in who is either casting themselves as somebody who sacrifices, or who is in fact somebody who makes sacrifices for the good. This is that king card, that notion of king keeps surfacing, and it's such a fascinating thing. And my suspicions are the work that all Capricorns or Capricorn moons or ascendants or etc. have done through the transit of Pluto through Capricorn. They're now finding out the limitations of that power and also soft power, possibly, right? So
Mhm.
there's a lot of intensity in this card. And yeah, I would, you know, that's all I can say about it. I'm confident that Capricorns can do what they need to do with that.
I love it.
Yeah.
So Aquarius, again, I laughed because I pulled the Ace of Swords.
Oh, beautiful.
See that's such an Aquarian card,
Yeah.
like, um, so, and because we're transitioning out of Aquarius season into Pisces season, it's like, okay, but stay in your power.
Beautiful.
Ace of Swords says that with everything moving into Pisces, this is the month for mental clarity.
Yeah.
You may have an important realization or discover the truth, or you may get a new perspective, which is that it's interesting that it came up in the card because it's also in the full moon chart that opens up the month. So
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting. You may get important realization, discovery of truth, perspectives, to help cut through the confusion and also to help you see clearly. Because with all that stuff in Pisces,
Right.
things can feel a bit wobbly.
Right.
Use the information to set clear intentions. Intentions come up again, and also clear boundaries. And that's something we're all going to have to think about
That's right.
with the shift. And then one clear and honest conversation can achieve a lot this month. So
So exciting.
know what your intention is moving into it, and then
Yeah.
just be clear when you have that conversation. So that was Aquarius.
That's very, very Aquarius friendly.
Yeah.
And then the last card, the Pisces card, sorry about this. There we go. Strength and it's the only major arcana card that I pulled. And we've spoken to this, so I won't make a meal out of it, but Pisces is strong this month. And so my encouragement for the Pisces out there is to recognize your strength. Let yourself rest within it. My experience of strength is usually that it hits you and then it can drain out of you. So let that happen. If it happens a bunch of times, that's fine. Know that if you're overwhelmed, it's because you're seeing a lot. And so take time for yourself. Even if you're alone and you're seeing a lot, you can say enough of that. I just want to be sitting and experiencing life. And then, because it's really quite strong, there may be reactions to Pisces. You show up and there's all this strength. You don't know you're bringing it. And the other folks may have a strong reaction to it. So you can be gentle with them or just go, yes, I'm very strong and offensive this month. So sorry. Ha ha. My bad.
And something that just popped into my head is that so Pisces, no matter which rulership you go with, if you go
Right.
with Jupiter or Neptune, so you've got Neptune that's gone into Aries, so needing to be brave, right?
Yes.
But then Jupiter, because the moon is so active and it's
Yes.
ruling Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter is going to expand all of that lunar energy from the eclipses to the full moon and all of it. So Pisces likely are going to have moments of needing to find that strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to create those boundaries and to
Yeah.
be really firm in who they are.
And you've got it. That the card says you've got it. So we hope you find it and enjoy it. And I will say one last thing. Ramadan is this month. It'll kick off on the 19th. And I can't remember the beautiful ceremonies that happen at the beginning and the end, but I just want to share people who follow Ramadan will not be eating in the daytime and they will be eating in the nighttime. So that could at one moment describe all this strange energy that we're talking about, or it could be a place we can look to see how folks handle that, because it's quite lovely for a community to say, we're not going to eat in the daytime because we're going to feed each other at night. So.
Wow. Beautiful. And beautiful with Saturn moving into a new sign as well.
I think so.
Because the restriction of Saturn, right, is tied into that whole idea. Yeah.
With
Very
the
cool.
Neptune. Yeah, it's is really poetic this month.
Yeah, there's a real spiritual awakening energy of
There
that,
can
you know?
be.
And I think that with Saturn and Neptune doing that dance, doing Saturn activities, which, you
Yes.
know, organizing,
Restrict.
working,
Yeah,
but restricting also, will have this potential for real spiritual awareness.
I think so.
Yeah, so that's kind of beautiful for sure.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's February,
Super
everybody.
fun. Super
Yeah,
fun.
I'm excited. Next week we have a very special episode.
I'm
Um,
preparing every day.
are you preparing?
I
So
am.
this came in, guys. This
Woo!
came in. This is my new book that's coming out in a few weeks. And so we're going to talk about it next week on the show. So if you're interested or not, or whatever, join us. It's going to be a super fun
It's
conversation.
going to be so much fun. I can't
Anyways,
wait.
thank you
All
so much,
right.
Lillian.
Yeah. Thank you
Goodbye.
all for joining us. Lovey-HY6QW. Hi. And Lori, I'm sorry we broke it to you that way. I can't stand it. That's all I'll say.
All right. Mwah. Have a great weekend, everybody.